growing up with my grandparents, again, my dad wasn't in the picture, for the longest time. And my mom was always busy. She was always gone. And it was weird because, being the youngest, I don't remember a lot of actual, one-on-one time with my mom. I really don't. I don't really remember that much about one-on-one time with my dad. Mm-hmm. Just like next to nothing until like, I think, later, mm-hmm. in my youth, but my grandfather, always there. My grandfather worked, but he still took care of us. Made sure we weren't, fucking stupid. And we were fucking stupid. We did stupid shit. But I was blessed to have them in my life because I would probably, one of two places is where I would be. And I can, say this 100%. I'd be either dead or I'd be in jail. Mm-hmm. The opportunities were there, again, to live your worst life, to become the worst version of yourself. Drugs were there, gangs were there, doing stupid shit was there, and my brothers did it. I kind of tagged along, but I never joined a gang. I never got jumped in. I never, I didn't need to, but I fought a lot, and I always had, I got jumped. I've been, almost shot. I've been shot at. I've been, again, just a lot of crazy shit. Mm-hmm. And music and art and dancing and everything else, again, kept me off the street, like mm-hmm. as much as it possibly could. But like recently, I'm talking like the last 5 years, like the early 40s, for me. Before my grandmother passed away, my mom's mom, she had given me some truths. She dropped me with some knowledge, and I was like, "Fuck, why did you say that?" She had told me that I wasn't wanted. Bottom line, like my parents, they had my sister, my brother, my other brother, and my brother and I are 10 months apart. So, Irish twins. It's like, oh, okay, cool, But I was told that, my mom would fight with my dad. My dad would fight with my mom. I don't know if they were trying to have a miscarriage or I don't know, whatever. My mom knew that if she pissed off my dad, that he'd hit her. And my dad knew that if he pissed off, just craziness, and because it all stemmed from, I didn't know really much like my history, and I called my dad. I wasn't talking to my mom. It's really weird. Don't have a good relationship with her. And I don't really have a good relationship with my dad, but I've always tried to. And I called him and I was like, "Hey, do you have any pictures of me as a kid?" He's like, "Oh yeah, of course I do." I said, "Cool. Can you send me some so I can show my kids, and we can talk about, who I am and what my history is, whatever." And I got nothing, So I'm thinking, okay, you're my dad. You're supposed to be, you're supposed to have everything, whatever. So then I got like 3 pictures. Oh, wow. Like he texted me like 3 pictures. And I asked him again, I'm like, "Hey, do you have any pictures of me?" And he was like, "Who would have those? Your grandma." And I said, "Okay." So I called my grandmother, my mom's mom. And I said, "Hey, by any chance, do you have any pictures of me as a kid? Because I'd like to show my kids, and say, hey, this is me as a kid and this is what I did and, whatever." And she's like, "Oh yeah, absolutely." Even in her later, later years of her life, her 90s, she sent me 2 manila envelopes full of pictures. And it wasn't just pictures of me, pictures of my grandmother, her sister, my aunt, my great aunts, it was history. It was a lot of cool stuff, a lot of black and white stuff too, which was pretty badass. And I was just like, why? Like, why didn't, my dad do that? Or why didn't, stuff like that? And I was pissed. But again, it made sense once she told me, as fucked up as it was, like, okay, cool. Which, fast forward, in my mid-40s, going to counseling, going to therapy, I unloaded on my therapist, and I was like, yeah. She goes, "Well, that's why you have detachment issues. That's why you have abandonment issues. That's why you have trust issues. That's why you have..." And I was putting it out there. And I was just like, wow. And it all kind of just fell in line. Like everything was like doop, 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 doop. And it all made sense. And as shitty as it was to hear all that and to understand it, I had this acceptance. I was lucky to have my grandfather in my life, and my grandmother, my dad's mom, in my life as well. And my grandmother from my mom. You know, I didn't know my dad's dad. I was way too young when he died. He literally died working.
Wow.
He fell off a ladder, but which is crazy because again we talk about, you know, the spirituality part and everything. I've had dreams of him. I've seen him. You know, like, oh hey, I know who you are. But I've never like truly, you know, met him, hung out with. I was young. I was a kid. You know, I was a little kid. You know.